Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Heat Check Podcast. I'm John Devine. With me is Anthony Chang, and the roller coaster ride continues. We had a 10-game losing streak, then we had a 6-game winning streak, including a big win over the Celtics. Then we lost a heartbreaker. We're filming this Friday morning, so we lost a heartbreaker Thursday night to the Grizzlies. So let's start, first of all, where are they in the playoff race? Give us an update on how this is working.
Yeah, they're basically with the loss last night to Memphis. They're locked into the play-in tournament. They've basically been locked in, but now they're officially locked into the play-in tournament for the third straight season. They are locked into a losing record for the first time, I think, since 2000. First time in more than 5 years. I know that. And it's like the sixth time since Pat Riley got here, so it doesn't happen often. And they are in ninth place in the East. Half a game up on Chicago, one and a half games behind Atlanta, 2.5 games behind Orlando for seventh. So they are, they could still technically get to seventh. They could still fall to 10th. But right now, if the regular season ended right now, they would host the Bulls in the 9 versus 10 game. It's important, you want to be in 7 and 8, not 9-10, because 7-8 you have 2 chances to win 1 game, get into the playoffs. 9-10 you have to win 2 straight play-in games just to make the playoffs. So there's a big difference there. So the Heat are going to try, obviously. 7 might be tough. They're 2.5 back with 5 games to play. But a game and a half behind Atlanta for 8th, that's doable, right? If the Heat can close strong, win their final 5 games, you maybe have a chance of moving up to 8 and then giving yourself 2 opportunities to win 1 game. So that's going to be the important thing. And obviously, you don't want to fall to 10th. Fall to 10th, they have to win 2 road games to make the playoffs just as the 8th seed. There is a big game coming up, Heat Bulls in Chicago next Wednesday that, could determine, which team hosts that 9 versus 10 game if the Heat can't move up. So a lot still to be determined over this last week or so of the season. But the Heat are locked into the play-in tournament again for the 3rd straight year.
And let's remind people that Chicago team is the team that traded away Zach LaVine.
Yep.
Traded away DeMar DeRozan was gone all year. This is before we think, it's all equal. They let people go. Yes, the Heat let people go as well. We won't mention that name. But it's just realize this is not, a team where you're like, they have veteran presence. This is a young team as well. It's just like, didn't think we'd quite be here again, but here we are.
Yeah.
But let's go to a lighter side. They won 6 in a row. That was nice. They did a lot of it without Wiggins, which was nice as well. What did you see that you actually liked out of the 6-game winning streak?
Seems like they found a rotation, which I think is nice because they've been really just kind of rotating through different lineups, different guys all season, as we've talked about all season, John. So it seems like they kind of found a rotation, even though Wiggins has been out. But they took Terry and Jaime out of the rotation. Those guys have not really been playing during this stretch. Instead, they're playing a 3-man bench rotation, basically, of Haywood, Davion, and Kyle Anderson, which has really been effective. Davion and Haywood off the bench has really provided like a different energy when they enter the game together, especially defensively. Kyle Anderson is just a smart player who can help the offense and has bring some size, some positional size that could, he's a decent defender, hold his own on that end. So it just feels like they found some consistency in the rotation. Last night, Duncan Robinson came back. He joined the bench rotation. So that's another body, another obviously shooter. We'll see how healthy he is. He only played 10 minutes in his return, so I don't know if doesn't seem like he's 100%, but we'll see as the games go on. And then you go to the starting lineup, and they're starting Alec Burks and Pelle Larsson. Pelle Larsson has been great for them since he started playing consistent minutes again. Just doing the little things. He plays really hard. Defensively taking on big matchups, getting steals, blocks, offensive rebound, just a hustle guy, right? Just does as Eric Spoelstra would say, makes winning plays. So they kind of revamped the rotation here, like during this last couple of weeks, where Terry and Jaime, who have had really rough seasons, and you look at the on-off numbers, really bad, taking them out and added guys like Pella add guys like Kyle Anderson. Obviously, Davon's playing more minutes. Alec Burks who's been in another rotation, is now playing starter minutes, and he's been shooting the ball well. So they've took out two guys who have been negatives really all season and added some guys who have provided positive minutes, and it's again it's resulted in a good stretch here. 6 out of 7, won the 6 in a row before a really competitive game against Memphis that ended in John Morant's game winner. But still a good, an encouraging performance. They played well against a good team. So yeah, that's the one thing that's really stood out to me over this last week or so.
Okay, so we mentioned Pelle Larsson, we mentioned Anthony Wiggins. How do you see this rotation fitting back in when he's healthy?
Because, it's going to be, yeah. I think you have to, probably Pelle does not start when Wiggins comes back. I know some would say, why don't you just put Wiggins in for Alec Burks, keep Pelle in the starting lineup? I just don't think that's enough shooting in that group. I don't think the spacing is going to be good if you have, Pelle, Wiggins, Bam, Kalel, and then Tyler. I just don't think there's enough space there. So I would think Wiggins probably enters for Larsson, and Larsson still plays minutes off the bench. Then we'll have to get to what happens to the bench rotation. Then if Pelle's off the bench, because I do think Pelle's going to stay in the rotation. I can't at this point see him not playing. He's been playing. He's been doing so much for them that they need. So there are going to be some decisions to make. Obviously, maybe injuries dictate that. Maybe a matchup in the playoffs dictate that, right? But I would expect Wiggins probably to when he comes back, he'll start, obviously. And I think he would take Pelle's spot in the starting group.
And it's amazing how they keep finding these guys. And I don't know. Look, at the beginning of the season, it was like, oh, look, he looks great in the summer league. Oh, okay. Now it looks like he's really fitting in the preseason. He doesn't look overmatched. Every time we keep giving him bigger opportunities, it doesn't look like it's too much for him. Except I remember there was one game he had like 3 fouls in like 4 minutes or something.
Well, that's his one thing. He plays so physical and so hard. Right. That's been an issue he's had to address, of just the fouling, especially if you're being relied on to play as a starter. You can't be going out there getting 3 fouls in 4 minutes. Right. So yeah.
But as much as Spo mixes and matches, I think you're right. When he finds a hot hand, it's like, okay, I'm not gonna mess this up. And I could see them, they're gonna explain it as minutes for Wiggins, and they'll let him come up because we need to give him 20 minutes. So why start, just to ease him in and not mess with the continuity. But if you had put money down that this starting 5, well, once the trade happened, that this was going to be a starting 5 that would be effective, it's kind of crazy. And now Anderson's nickname is Slow-Mo as well. That's another guy who you're just like, I don't understand how he's ending up with this. And you look at it and you're like, well, the final numbers. Didn't he have 19 the other night?
He had 19 in Boston. Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's been a weird season. It's been a strange season. I feel like we said that about every Heat season. Like every season for the Heat is strange, where like it's hard to explain some things. Where you lose 10 straight, you look like one of the worst teams in the league, and then you win 6 straight. You win in Boston. That's with Wiggins hurt. They're still winning in Boston. Seems like they found something in the final days of the regular season. This team has been through a lot this year. I mean, Eric Spoelstra said it yesterday, like they've been through a lot with the Jimmy stuff, and even before Jimmy was traded, all the speculation, all the turmoil, the suspensions, and then having to bring in 3 new guys who, when Wiggins is healthy, it's 3 new guys who are playing significant minutes. It's like half the rotation's different. And you've had to kind of change and pivot on the fly, and Bam and Tyler doing what they're doing, and maybe changing the game a little bit because now Jimmy's not here. It's just been a lot, right? But I think this team, I know fans would say, well, what does winning do here? Like, you're still in the playing tournament. You're going to lose. You might lose your draft pick. You might, you had a chance. You got an eighth worst record like a week and a half ago before this winning streak, and you may have a chance to get a top 4 pick. What are you doing? I think this team needed this. Like, you couldn't just end the season on this huge losing stretch of losing 12 of the last 15 games. Like, that wouldn't have been good for anybody. So I think this team needed it. I think they kind of, something they earned, right? Like, just they had played, there were a few games in that losing streak where probably should have won. You're looking back to that Cade Cunningham game winner, Cavaliers winning by double digits for most of the game and losing that game at the end. So there's been a lot of games during that losing streak that they probably could have won. So I think this was something that they needed at this point. And again, like you said, like we've said, it doesn't mean they're out of the play. It doesn't mean they're going to make a deep run in the playoffs. but they are playing better, and that means something.
And remember this, you draft pick fans. For those of you who are worried, oh no, we screwed up our draft pick. If they don't win in the play-in tournament,
right,
technically they're not in the playoffs. So the lottery still holds true, correct?
Correct. It's just that their spot in the lottery will be better, worse than it would have
Lower.
been if they would have
The number
lost.
would be, yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't get a top 4, but you're in the lottery.
Yeah, you're in the lottery, so you have a chance at top 4. It's just not as good of a chance, right?
Okay.
So that's the issue. But look, the Heat are gonna. We've seen it. I don't need to say it. Like, it's evident on the court. They're gonna try to win these games, right? Especially out there when they're playing and they're fighting for a better position in the play-in. They have a chance to move up to that 7-8 game. Like, they're gonna try to do that. And they have a pretty favorable schedule, which I'm sure you and I will go over here in a few minutes. To maybe make a run and try to get out of the 9-10 game and give themselves 2 chances to win 1 game in the play-in tournament.
And I think we need to remind people sometimes, the Heat, if you look at the beginning of their season, the Heat usually starts slow because Spo's trying to figure out who can do what works. Okay, you got to February and you turned everything into chaos again because we had to make all these trades. You're bringing in 3 new people. If you look at the way Spo's teams tend to rise and fall, it took a few minutes. It's almost like a training camp at the beginning of the season again, where he's trying to make these pieces fit. That doesn't even count injuries. And look, we always used to get on Tyler Herro. He's always hurt. He's been relatively healthy this year. By his standards, he's been healthy. So he's trying to figure out making pieces fit. Before he got hurt, Anthony Wiggins went off for 42. It looked like, and Wiggins had to learn he's going to be a different player than he was in Golden State. So you're trying to make all that fit. You're looking at, you have Davion Mitchell, so how you play defense is different because you can try and slow down the point guard. You're not just letting them walk the ball off the floor. You're not letting them get in their sets. He's doing this all on the fly. And so maybe a 10-game losing streak isn't something that was in the cards, but having a different performance while he figures it out is.
Yeah, for sure. And I think they've definitely leaned into defense, which you and I both talked about when they made the trade was going to have to be the case. But you look at the guys who are playing big minutes, Davion Mitchell. And Davion Mitchell, he can't play him enough right now. He leads the team in fourth quarter minutes the last 10 or 11 games. He's playing, he played 37 minutes off the bench last night. Basically, like, once he enters the game in the first half and the second half, pretty much doesn't go back out. He plays the rest of the half. I like Pelle Larson's a defensive guy, right? He's playing, big minutes starting. Like, he's leaning into the defense, which I think makes sense for this group. This group is never going to be the lead offensive team. They kind of have to muck games up and just make it kind of a gritty, grimy game. And yes, the Heat, a big part of this winning stretch has been they're shooting a league high from 3-point range, 46%. Like, it's probably not sustainable, so that's been a big part of it. But defensively, they've been really good. And I think that's the one thing that you're like, maybe they can continue that. Maybe they can be a top 5, top 7 defense with the guys they're playing right now. The offense is going to fluctuate. Shots go in, sometimes shots don't go in. But if they can find an identity on the defensive end as being a really, tough defense to go against, that's kind of going to be their calling card, I think, that'll keep them in most games.
You look at the beginning of the season, and you could say, okay, Bam's there for you defensively. Jimmy is there for you defensively. Even though, at age 34, there are some matchups that that he won't do well with. But now you're saying, okay, we've got Davion Mitchell, who plays tough D. You have Pelle Larsson, who's physical, if nothing else, he's physical.
Yeah.
Then you've still got Bam and his versatility. And then you actually have a rim protector, which you haven't had maybe since, Zoe?
Hassan Whiteside.
That's not, yeah. He blocks.
Nobody's doing it with blocks. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So, you have things at the very least. And look, all you people who are going to come out there and comment and say, oh, this is mediocre. This is 500. This is the best you're looking for. For those of you who are actually watching these games this year, you are looking at something different than what you've seen before. And the bottom line is, we know they're going to go whale hunting at some point. And when they do, at least they know they have things around it,
Right.
where they can try and fit the whale that they want. If it's somebody who's going to draw double teams and shooting, maybe not. But if you want like a bunch of scrappy junkyard dogs who are going to mess everything up, and you put the ball in someone's hands and let them go off, you may have that kind of team.
Yeah, I mean, and to your point, like if you're Kevin Durant hypothetically, and you're looking to see where you want to be traded to, doesn't this situation look a little better than it did 2 weeks ago, right? Like,
right.
Why would any star want to join a team that loses 12 of their last 13 games of the season, and it flames out in the playing tournament? Now you look at this, you're like, this is, if I go to this team, playing pretty well, kind of need a really good scorer, elite scorer. I could do that. So that's another positive of this stretch of you see that this team has something, right? It has something that, yeah, it's missing a number one, an alpha, a top scorer, even though Tyler's been playing really, really, really well. But yeah, it's missing a true number one. A star might see that and say, I want to go there. So that's another benefit, from what they're doing right now.
And stars are usually stars because they have egos. Let's be honest. Part of what makes them great is they think they can do anything.
Yeah.
Okay. So you get a star in here, goes, you know what? I can pull these guys. I can drag them here. It's not a problem. That's what you're going to get if you get the right person. That's what you would get. Now, the bad news is there aren't a ton of them. Not too many people want to let those kind of guys go. But as you can see, you can pout your way out of any situation, apparently. You don't necessarily have, you don't have to just say, I'm not happy, I want to go, and just leave it there. You don't have to do that anymore. Now
right.
All bets are off. You could say from I'm under contract. So what? I have a year. No, I don't want to waste that kind of time. And this is not just limited to the NBA. Just so we know, people, this happens to the NFL. This happens everywhere now. It's not just, oh no, we're saying those kids are pouty and petulant. No, this is sports, period. This is the whole landscape.
Yeah, for sure. And look, I know Kevin Durant's the hot name. Obviously, John Morant's gained some traction, right? Of different reports coming out that maybe Memphis is going to try to move him. But there's
sorry,
going
I
to
was
be
doing my finger guns thing.
I don't want you to get suspended.
Oh, sorry. I'll put my hands behind my back.
But there are going to be names that we don't even expect. I mean, this is the NBA, right? We see it every year, every offseason, every season. There'll be a name that pops up. They're like, what? I didn't expect him to be available. I mean, Luka just got traded. So you just don't know who's going to become available, who's going to want out. You kind of just have to put yourself in position to be ready to take in a star and feel like you could be a contender if you add a star. And I don't know if the Heat is there yet, right? I'm not saying they are, but they definitely feel closer to that than they did 3 weeks ago. So yeah, I think this stretch has been really encouraging. If nothing else, like you have two rookies starting, Pella and Kalel, and they're both playing well. You don't see that often, right? Two rookies starting and then they're actually producing. Two guys you just added look like they're adding value. Davion Mitchell and Kyle Anderson. This is without Wiggins. Wiggins really should be your third best player. He hasn't been available for most of the time since he's been traded here. And when he has been available, he's looked pretty good. So yeah, I think there's some stuff to be encouraged by. Obviously, if they get into the playoffs, it's going to be against Boston or Cleveland. That's going to be tough. That's a conversation for another day. But right now, you look at the play-in teams, Orlando, Atlanta, Chicago, Miami. On paper, I don't know, maybe tell me if I'm wrong. I guess Orlando might have an argument, but I think on paper that he probably have the best roster, right? Just top to bottom.
Best roster. Before I forget, look, after the Luka trade, all bets are off when it comes to anything. I think it may even add pressure now because it's like, depending on your thoughts on it, hey, you can find someone to convince, to trade one thing for an all-world talent. That trade may be once in a lifetime because most people will consider it ridiculous, but clearly it isn't. But the other thing is, we're talking about 7 through 10. They may have on paper the best roster, but it's all about matchups too. We know,
sure.
Look, Chicago. Even said Chicago was depleted from a year ago. They don't always match up well with Chicago.
No, they don't. They always have issues with Chicago.
Same thing with Orlando. They don't match. And Orlando, like I said, they're carbon copies of each other almost, except they have an alpha. Actually, you could say they have 1.5 alphas because Wagner as well.
Yeah.
They have two people who can take over.
they're missing Jalen Suggs. That's the one
Right.
thing. Like they're really that was a big
Defensive.
loss for them defensively for sure.
Yeah.
And he was getting better offensively, a better shooter. But yeah, defensively they really miss him. But yeah, Orlando's a team that like probably out of all of them, if I'm the Heat, that's the team I don't want to face.
Yeah.
Um,
And let's give Tyler Herro his props. I would put him in the same stratosphere as of an so-called alpha with Pancaro and Wagner. I'd put him in there as well. But that's still 1-on-2. You know, love Bam, but Bam's a total player, which means, but you also have to get him the ball. Yes, you can let him bring the ball up and initiate a little bit, but it's just not quite the same. It's a different kind of offense than when Tyler's bringing it up or someone else is bringing it up. So, yeah, on paper they do. Well, they may have the deepest one. Especially
I was gonna say from top to bottom, they probably do.
Yes,
right?
You're still playing 5 guys, 48 minutes? So what's that?
Yeah.
240 minutes a game.
And the problem is, especially if you're 9 versus 10 and it's single elimination, really, you don't have the buffer of having, you have 2 chances to win 1 game. It's single elimination. Anything can happen. It's like March Madness, right? Like the team gets hot, they win the game, and you're done. Your season's over. So that's the position that he have put themselves in. But just before we move on, I want to go to Tyler Herro real quick. He deserves a lot of credit, right? Like he was struggling for a little bit after the All-Star break. Teams really keying in on him trying to figure out how to play against those defenses, how to still get to his game. He's kind of done that by being a little more crafty, not taking as many threes, having to rely more on his 2-point game. Last 7 games during the 6-1 stretch, he's averaging 29 points a game, 57% shooting from the field, 49% shooting on threes, 5 rebounds, 5.6 assists, 1.4 steals. He's been awesome, right? So he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done. He's kind of reinvented himself, obviously entering the season with his shot chart, taking more threes, but he almost reinvented himself again mid-season because of not having Jimmy and having a new personnel around him. Defense is playing him differently. Had to change some things up, and he's done it again, and he's playing great.
And you know what? Pat Riley challenged him in the offseason. Challenged just pretty much all the question. You got to be available. You got to do this. You got to put in the work. You got to be there. And he has answered every call from the offseason that Pat Riley offered him. And you think back, and it was like, ooh, we want Damian Lillard. And one of the points they wanted was, okay, give us Tyler Herro. And you look now, through no one's fault, deep vein thrombosis, for those of you Chris Bosh fans, you remember those things can make you nervous. And he's in his 30s. At this point, if you're looking from 3 to 5 years, and whose future would you want to have the next 3 to 5 years on the court? And that was laughable 2 years ago. It was like, there's no way. We want Damian Lillard all day, every day. And sometimes the best trades are ones you don't make.
Yeah, no, it's very well put. I think, at this point, I don't think it's a conversation, right? Even before, unfortunately for Dame, the blood clot, obviously that's sad news, and hope he comes back this season for him and the Bucks. But even before that, you could make an argument you still want Tyler Herro over Dame, right? Just the way things were trending, the age. Tyler he deserves, again, a lot of credit for what he's done, because there are a ton of players who have, he's an accomplished player. So think what you want about Tyler. He won 6th Man of the Year. He's played in NBA Finals.
Made the All-Star game this year.
Made the All-Star game this year. For him to take the criticism, look himself in the mirror, come back a different player, listen to what his coaches were telling him, and totally change his shot chart, and then again in the midseason change his game again. It just says a lot, right? I mean, not a lot of guys are mature enough, or they don't have the ego to be willing to do that. He had already done a lot entering the season. So yeah, I give him a lot of credit for what he's done. I think that's probably been the best story right now of the team this season.
And you know what? When we get to the end of the season, we'll talk about who had their seasons, because you have a couple other guys. You can talk about Khalil Ware's development. You could talk about Bam's development, because Bam's second half has clearly been stronger than his first half.
Sure.
And we can talk about that. And even if we're talking about the draft and what do they need to add, once we find out where they draft, whether they have 1 or 2 picks, can they package them, the depth of the draft, there's so many things. It's funny, for a team that is below 500 and that will finish below 500 and that's in the play-in game, it's not because it's dull. You don't lack for things to talk about. You can't usually say that. If I'm in Atlanta, I'm in Chicago, we're 25 minutes in. We're not doing this for 25 minutes the same way.
10 minutes or we're done, yeah.
Yes. So if nothing else, you can't say that they're standing pat and they're doing nothing. May not agree with it, may not like it, but they're working towards something.
Real quick about Bam, and I put this in my takeaways yesterday. I thought it was interesting. Last 31 games, that's a big sample. It's almost half the season. He is shooting 41 of 99, 41.4% on threes. That's something. He started the season by shooting 27% on threes in his first 44 games. Last 31 games, 41%. That is
the first half, if you told me he was going to make 41 threes for the year, which is like half of them a game, I would have told you you're crazy. So,
I mean, that's elite. 41% on. I know it's low volume, but still, that's 41% on three attempts a game. I mean, that you can't ask for much more than that. That's Chris Bosh.
A very, very small part of it to putting Ware in that starting lineup.
Yeah.
Because someone can go get it. If he breaks it, someone can still go get it.
Yeah, and he's playing on the perimeter a little bit more than he did before, I think. And and you make that point, and that does it. 31 games. It's kind of like when Khalil entered that starting lineup. Kind of when that happened. So it makes sense. Checks out.
So if no matter who, oh no, I don't like that Pat Riley can't get us a well. I don't like this. Well, now all of a sudden, for a guy who didn't like to draft people, he's been drafting people. So you can find something that you hate, you can find something that you love, but there is reason for optimism. Yeah. How much? Time will tell. But we're gonna get ready to wrap up. Anthony's got a very busy week. By this time next week, we're gonna have a little bit more clarity, and we will see how this is going to pan out. I look forward to it. I don't know if Anthony does because I'm moving around and staying away.
Yeah. Staying awake could be an issue. Yeah.
Yes, but keep it locked in here. You've got Anthony. You've got Barry. We're going all over the place. We're going to be ready for however this shakes out. For the last 2 years, we said play a game. We got an NBA. We got an Eastern Conference Finals one year. We're getting NBA Finals here and there. I can't guarantee you how this is going to turn out, but I can guarantee you that we'll be there to chronicle everything for you. So for John Devine, that's me, and Anthony Chang, we will see you next time on Heat Check Podcast.